As the gaming industry has grown and profits have increased exponentially, company executives have shifted their focus from trying to get ahead in an accelerating industry to trying to be comfortable and pad their shareholders' pockets with consistent, shitty, uninspired releases. Assassin's Creed went from the pinnacle of AAA open-world experiences to generic garbage. Fallout went from one of the best narrative RPGs ever made to a microtransaction-riddled MMO. It is quite unfortunate. And like I said, not all AAA games are bad. Techland killed it with Dying Light. Doom Eternal was a masterpiece. There are good ones mixed in with the dumpster of AAA trash that piles up behind GameStop. But I've been drifting away from these games to play cool indie games. Games that are near perfect. Games like Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock Galactic is one of the most polished, consistent, and attractive indie games that I've played in recent years. Every inch of this game relays the good design choices that were made during Deep Rock's development, and it's a game that knows what it wants to do and accomplishes it perfectly without any unnecessary bells or whistles. Deep Rock is a looter-shooter without much loot and a much heavier focus on shooting. You're a dwarf employee of a corrupt space mining company called Deep Rock Galactic, and your goal is to dive thousands of feet below the surface of an alien planet to extract minerals and complete various tasks to earn the company money. You get to choose between 4 different classes of dwarves, each with their own special abilities, and you and up to 3 other friends can work together to complete your missions for the company, upgrading your equipment and gear in the process. It's a truly unique take on an otherwise oversaturated genre, and it's much more exciting than the garbage assembly line trash that Ubisoft in particular has been putting out lately. Anyways, Deep Rock Galactic is truly epic, and in today's video, I'm going to spend 15 minutes sounding like a man-child fanboy to explain to you why this is the case. So today, I'm going to be reviewing Deep Rock Galactic and talking about why it's so awesome. Before we deep dive into this outstanding game, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, World of Tanks. This game has some history because I used to play it all the way back in like 2013, and let me tell you, it continues to shine even today. World of Tanks is an epic online multiplayer battleground where you can control over 550 different tanks and play however you want, whether that's with guns blazing, sneaky tactics, or hanging back and taking them from afar. These real-time PvP battles are absolutely massive too. You can explore huge, wide open maps where you can tear across deserts, sneak through forests, climb massive mountains, and explore partially destroyed cities. In fact, there are over 40 zones and maps to check out, and the game is even historically accurate. The tank models are authentic, and as you take part in these massive battles, you really feel like a true tank commander. And best of all, World of Tanks on PC is 100% free to play. Jump in and play this amazing game with over 100 million other players around the world to see what it's about. If you're interested in playing World of Tanks, check out the game using my link in the description and use code TANKMANIA to get some super cool in-game rewards. Thanks again to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. Games where the gameplay loop continues to be interesting as time goes on are the ones that I continue to play. That's why I love RimWorld. The more you play it, the more you want to play it to continue where you left off and complete your next goal. Deep Rock Galactic is the exact same way. In this game, you play as one of 4 dwarf classes to kill aliens and participate in dangerous missions below the surface of a planet called Hoxes. Your goal is to complete whatever task the Deep Rock Galactic company is asking you to complete, and if you die in the process, who cares because capitalism, baby. As long as the company continues to make profits, your life is quite meaningless. You start out in a space hub orbiting above the planet and can configure a bunch of different things before you start each of your missions. One of the coolest things about this game is how there isn't really any traditional menus, and in this hub, you can play the game in a sort of interactive menu and nothing ever pulls you out of the world, but I'll spend more time talking about that in a bit. At the time of me making this video, there are currently 7 mission types. There's traditional mining expeditions where you just mine and gather a certain amount of resources, egg hunts where you have to extract eggs from these disturbing looking walls and then shit yourself every time all of the enemies come at you from every direction, refining missions where you have to build pipelines to extract a bunch of liquid materials and refine them into something else, extraction missions where you have to find way too many of these annoying things called aquarks and try to survive while you miserably transport them one by one back to a mining platform, escort missions where you have to protect a giant mining drill until it's finished, and elimination ones where you have to kill giant scary spider things called dreadnoughts. Jesus Christ, these dwarves are quite underpaid. Throughout these missions, you're working towards completing your primary objective while surviving hordes of alien creatures that never stop coming at you. So you always have to multitask to do what you need to do while surviving and ensuring that you have enough ammo and health to keep the mission going. For example, I recently did a mission where I had to build pipelines for the first time ever. I had to go back and forth between traversing the map, building pipelines, collecting materials, defending the extraction, and of course, surviving. I'll admit, it was extremely chaotic and the pipeline kept breaking while I was struggling to survive, but it ended up being a lot of fun and extremely rewarding to complete. As long as you can tear through the countless waves of different types of enemies, you're good to go. There's exploding enemies, flying ones, things that snatch you up, things that swarm you by massive numbers. There are all types of aliens and they come at you in different waves and combinations, and you always have to stay on your toes in order to kill them. But see, you don't only have to survive, you also have to manage your resources. There's minerals called nitra at each and every mission, and you have to find it and stockpile it because it's what you use to request more ammo from above whenever you get low. So you have to mix your main mission objective, consider your secondary objective that goes along with it, kill large amounts of enemies, and think about finding nitra in order to successfully complete a mission and get paid. It is the perfect balance, and the shifting priorities help to keep you entertained and excited while playing through your missions. Then, once you're done, the amount of resources that you find and how quickly you accomplished your goals comes into play when calculating how much money you made and how well you did on your mission. Now, this is a simplified version of the core gameplay loop, but it really shows how the game continues to stay interesting even as you progress. You unlock various assignments which tell you which mission types you need to play, and then once you complete these assignments, you unlock new gear, whether that's a new gun, new armor, some resources, or something else that'll help you in future missions. Thus, there's always an incentive to continue playing, and as you spend time leveling up your character, you'll have new ways to kill these godforsaken spider things. And that, my friend, is quite awesome. The equipment and gear that you use depends heavily on what class you're playing with. There are 4 main classes, like I've said 2 times now, and each one has a wildly different playstyle with wildly different capabilities. First is the Engineer, my personal favorite. This guy has a shotgun and a rocket launcher, as well as a buildable turret and a platform gun that lets you place platforms to traverse the spooky caves found in the game. Then there's the Driller guy, who has a sick-ass flamethrower and a drill that can mine through rock almost instantly. I will say, this guy is one of the most fun to play. Next up is the Gunner, who has a minigun that can absolutely obliterate aliens in the blink of an eye. And finally is the Scout, who has a grappling hook and bright flares to navigate around and illuminate everything for the rest of the team. Each class of Dwarf has a wildly different playstyle, and it all stems down to personal preference when choosing how you want to play. See, I like the Engineer because the sentries are pretty clutch when you're working on tasks, and the platform gun is one of the most fun ways to carve your own paths around the caves. Yeah, I usually struggle quite a bit, but it's still fun. If you want to change your weapons and items, each class has a few different options. With the Engineer, I can keep the shotgun or switch to an SMG, and I can switch my rocket launcher for something else as well. Or instead of doing that, I can upgrade my weapons and items in order to give them new abilities and make them more effective. And this is where resources come into play. Remember when I mentioned the nitra that you have to find on your missions? Well, that's not it. You better get greedy because you need a lot of resources. Each of the missions have specific minerals in that region, and those minerals are used to upgrade your weapons and armor. Think of it as a sort of currency that you need depending on what upgrades you want. So as you do your missions, you gotta look out for this stuff as well, because if you want to level your character, you're gonna need it. The types of minerals vary depending on what you're trying to do, but you can always find it hidden around the map in one way or another, and it's extremely important to get it unless you want to look like a puny loser in front of all your friends. If you mix these minerals with the money that you earn from the missions, you can upgrade whatever your heart desires and look like you know what you're doing. The abilities really do have a big impact on how you play the game, and they help to make the dwarves and their gear more unique and enjoyable with every playthrough. There are a lot of games that have the traits like I just talked about. It's easy to make a shooter game that gets the job done and allows you to shoot some enemies and have a good time. But Deep Rock sets the bar a lot higher and doesn't stop there. This game has a lot of charm and character, and that's one of the reasons that I keep returning to it when I'm looking for something to play. There are a lot of initially unseen design choices that are completely unnecessary in theory, but help to make the game much more interesting and smooth in execution. Going back to the example of the drilling mission that I mentioned earlier, I'm now going to take a deeper dive and explain what I meant by unseen design choices. As I was playing through this mission solo with my trusty little drone who helps you out if you're not playing with friends, I started to realize how much of a challenge it was going to be. I mean, this shit was kinda hard and there was a lot going on, so I knew that I may not be able to complete it. So as I was going around the map to connect all of the pipelines with their twisting paths and changes in elevation, I realized that you were able to grind on them in order to navigate. Yeah, the developers could have easily left that out, but the fact that I was able to do it made the stressful experience much more fun. Then, when I was trying to figure out if the pipelines were working or not, the ones that were on had a green light, and the ones that weren't didn't have a light. I know, it sounds absolutely stupid, and stuff like this should be common sense, but a lot of games don't do this. The developers spent a lot of energy going the extra mile to make sure users understood how the game is supposed to be played and that they had an enjoyable time doing so. Focusing less on the unseen design choices for a second, and more on the charm that I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of character in this game. Each of the dwarf classes have random funny dialogue lines and quirky personalities that tie in perfectly with the stressful, somewhat dark backstory of the missions. In the interactive menu that I briefly mentioned before, there's a jukebox where you can play music and dance with your friends. Or lack of friends if you're me. There's a bar where you can drink away your depression from not having friends who want to play the game with you, with different beers that each have different effects on your character. And there's a barrel kicking minigame just sitting in the corner where, when you become an angry drunken dwarf, you can take out your anger on whatever's nearby and compete for a high score in the process. These are more examples of things that didn't really need to be added to the game, but improve the experience and add more character and charm because of it. I'm not one of those nerds who are always like, oh wow, look at those graphics. That means this game is perfect, because that shit's kinda cringe. But if a game plays well and looks good, then oh man, it can have my children. Deep Rock Galactic is one of those games. Obviously, as you can tell by the entirety of this video, it plays well. Duh. But it's also extremely easy on the eyes, and the art style perfectly fits the gameplay without being too distracting. It has one of those low poly art styles that you often see with indie games, but it's not too obnoxiously bright or colorful. The color scheme is a bit dark and drab with occasional bright spots, and it really makes you feel like you're diving below the surface of a strange alien planet. This is going to be a short section, but it's one of those things that I had to briefly mention. So you're probably wondering, how does a game with a repetitive gameplay loop not get old? And I don't blame you for asking that. Many games that have repetitive gameplay loops often decline once you make it further in the game. They often get boring and you get tired of doing the exact same things over and over. But this is yet another place where Deep Rock absolutely shines. Playing through missions gives you experience that you can use to unlock new skills, like you could probably assume. But you can also unlock new gameplay mechanics as well. Welcome to Deep Dives. Deep Dives are massive 3-stage missions where, instead of a primary objective and a secondary objective, you have 2 primary objectives. This means that you have to complete both variables in order to progress to the next stage. As you go between stages, you carry over all of your health and materials, and you have to plan for the long game. They are definitely the most difficult challenges in the game by far, and they require a lot of teamwork and planning to complete. Now, I haven't gotten to this point yet because I originally played this game on console and then only recently switched over to PC, so I still have some progress to go, but from what I understand, they seem to be extremely fun. But by finishing these deep dives, you can receive rewards like weapon overclocks or forge cores, which can be used to upgrade your character even further and make sick changes to your weapons. Deep Rock Galactic has some really interesting and exciting in-game content, and they're even consistently adding more as we speak. In fact, they're still adding lots of new content, and the game is constantly getting better over time, which is always a plus. Ultimately, Deep Rock Galactic is yet another of those really well-made indie games that make me question the future of AAA titles. It's a lot of fun, and I promise you that you'll enjoy it if you give it a shot. So check it out and let me know what you think. Do you like Deep Rock as much as I do? Do you think it deserves to be called one of the best indie games on Steam? Or do you think it's overrated? Let me know in the comments. Anyways guys, that's gonna be it for today's video, so I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to check out World of Tanks and all of its amazing gameplay by clicking my link in the description and using the code TANKMANIA to get some exclusive in-game rewards. Thanks again to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. I will see you guys next time, and peace.